welcome to the Psych and Business Podcast, where we highlight the integration of psychology and psychological principles into the world of business and organizations. I'm your host, Dr. Ernest Wayde. I'm very happy to introduce you to my guest today. She's an expert in clinical and organization development psychology, and she uses her training and expertise to help women in leadership and team development. Her name is Mira Brancu. Dr. Brancu helps executives and their teams lead well today and better navigate tomorrow. Mira has a master's degree in counseling, PhD in clinical psychology, and over 20 years of experience in education, healthcare, and research, including an award-winning leadership career at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and a faculty appointment at Duke University. She seeks to help organizations strengthen retention of high-performing, underestimated talent organically by making these organizations a better place to work. Her organization development consulting firm was awarded the 2021 Corporate Philanthropy Award for their contributions to supporting underserved women professionally and economically. Dr. Brancu writes for Psychology Today and Thrive Global, and authored The Millennium's Guide to Workplace Politics. Her knack for unraveling intricate dynamics between people, systems, failure, and success is rooted in her immigrant experience and has brought her to where she is today, as well as the reason Towerscope has achieved such levels of success. Wow. Mira, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Ernest Wayde. I am really excited to talk with you today.
Excellent. Mira, I'm really happy that you're here because I know your focus is on women, and I just love to hear about the work that you're doing with them. But before we jump into that, I want to know, how did you get into this business? How did you get into the world of business from psychology?
Yeah, roundabout and not intentionally. So, yeah. So I would say that when I first started, let's just go really way back here. I came to America as a political Jewish refugee under a sponsorship program and didn't speak the language. And I really think during that time, during elementary school, when I didn't speak the language, it planted the seeds for me to get really interested in how people get along, how people work, what is it like to navigate a brand new, system within a new culture. And at first, that led me to being interested in counseling and supporting kids who were struggling and, finding challenges in, succeeding and thriving in the educational system. Over time, I got much more interested in the impact of their mental health. I went back to school for clinical psychology. It was then that I started having moments of signals that maybe clinical psychology wasn't quite right. When I went into clinical psychology, I just wanted a degree that would give me as much flexibility as the number of interests that I had.
Yeah.
And which school counseling did not give, right? I was a school counselor and that's all I could do, but I had a lot of interests. And so the PhD in clinical psychology afforded me the ability to try different things. If I didn't like research, I could do assessment. If I didn't like that, I could do therapy. If I didn't like that, et cetera, et cetera. And that was great because 3 years in, my advisor said, I don't think you want to be a clinical psychologist. And I was like, what do you mean? I know what I want to be. You're wrong. But he saw I was leaning into supporting his lab in certain ways and thinking about things in a different way than the rest of the students. And he's like, I don't know, maybe you want to be like an administrator or in behavioral health. And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. So I, in my first job, it was with the Department of Veterans Affairs. And it wasn't your traditional clinical job. It was supporting a research study. And I started just doing assessments for this research study. At least that's what I was hired to do. But what I found myself doing was wanting to improve the protocols, the standard operating procedures for the study, and how people work together to make the study run well.
So already,
And I kept asking for more of that kind of work. And so the director was like, I think I'm going to use you in a different way than what you were hired for.
Hmm.
And that's what started my trajectory towards management and leadership. I became a managing director of that research study. Um, and then 3 years in, I was tapped for this incredible stretch assignment that nobody else wanted to really engage in, which was to support another research center serving as their interim director, managing
Hmm.
what they called a hostile work environment, a toxic work environment. And my director had seen what I was doing in our own research center, helping people work together, creating procedures and protocols for how we approach work and work, function better. And he's like, "You're the one to go do this and
Hmm.
fix it."
Hmm.
And that is what changed the entire trajectory of my career. That stretch assignment where I had the chance to really engage in that fully and get consultants to help me. And those consultants were organizational development consultants. And I was like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing, what they're doing
Yeah.
to help me as a leader in this position.
Mhm. So that's really cool. So you actually had consultants doing organization development work come in to help you in your leadership role. So you were leading and managing, and then also sought the experience of consultants. So this is really cool, Mira, because you've actually had the experience of being the client, and as well as, now that I know that you also have your own consulting firm, you are the consultant. So tell us a little bit about the work that you do, because I know that you focus specifically with women and leadership and team development.
Yeah. So I was still continuing to go on my leadership career path, had
Hmm.
incredible trajectory. Um, and by, you know, year 10 of my career as a clinical psychologist within mental health research, um, I started realizing that um, we might not always get funded to be supported to do research within the
Hmm.
Department of Veterans Affairs. And I started thinking, what would I do as a backup plan if this didn't work out? And where am I going with my career anyway? Um, and I started thinking about all of the things that I really enjoy doing most, and it was starting to solidify or clarify for me that I really um, felt good when I could help other early career women navigate
Hmm.
their careers, and especially those who wanted to potentially go into management and leadership roles. And they were coming to me asking me, how did you navigate this large complex system, and how did you become visible, and how did you position yourself, and how did you get this funding and get it approved and get those resources, and all of these questions that are all related to leadership development that I had
Hmm.
gone through. And that's what started the company. So I started the
Hmm.
company solely focused on supporting women in leadership, and especially like early to mid career women who were starting in their first or second leadership role with a team of people within large complex systems. Why women? Well, beside the fact that they were like, coming to me for help, and I thought like there's something there.
Yeah.
There really was I guess an epiphany that I had that my, you know, I, up until that point, I just thought like my success were just like coming out of pure luck. I was in the right place, right time, but not believing like I had any skill set or there was anything, any reason why I ended up in these roles versus, some other person or some other situation.
Hmm.
But I did start recognizing that um, when I didn't have great mentorship, I did not thrive.
Hmm.
It didn't go anywhere. And I had a great mentor who saw things in me that I did not see in myself, and who was able to serve as not just a mentor and a supervisor, but also a sponsor, which a lot of women don't have. A lot of women don't necessarily have um, adequate mentorship. They're over mentored in all the wrong ways, like how to get along with people, and under mentored in ways that advance their career.
Mm-hmm.
And have insufficient sponsorship because often people who are sponsors or those who are in a position of authority and power who can um, recommend other people usually recommend people who look like themselves
Yeah.
and act like them. And that's usually white men promoting more white men into positions of power and leadership and privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in this weird situation where I was one of the few, lucky few who were identified by, a male sponsor, older way, male sponsor who had already had his own successes, was looking to really, grow and strengthen the research center, and identified me as somebody who had all the right skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
and that it doesn't happen very often for a lot of women, and especially not
Yeah.
women with additionally marginalized identities. And so this made me feel like if I got this opportunity, I wanted to share with as many other people as I could, as many other women and women from marginalized backgrounds as I could, because it was a special and rare experience. Not fair to keep it to myself,
Yeah.
so why not share it with everybody else?
I love the story, Mira. I love the journey that you've had, and I want to ask you specifically to if you're comfortable sharing a little bit about your experience being someone who received coaching and consulting, because as a woman, as you said, in a position of leadership, what did you get from your coaches and consultants that helped you to improve as a leader, and then how do you try to provide that for other women that you work with to help them in their leadership journey?
Oh, really great questions. Um, I think number one, the confidence to recognize I was on the right path. You know,
Mm-hmm.
these leadership roles, and especially that first one, was a very scary risk to take.
Mm-hmm.
I was young in my career. I was a woman. People looked at me like I didn't know what I was talking about. In fact, I got calls in advance of that from other people in higher levels, positions of power,
Mm-hmm.
saying, you know nothing. How could you possibly take this on? You don't have the right skill set. You don't have the and it was discouraging, and yet I sort of chose to ignore that and chose to lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the consultants and coaches helped me sort of hold on to that belief in myself that I was on the right path. They helped me continue to understand my strengths and how to apply them.
Mm-hmm.
They taught me frameworks that were brand new to me about how to bring people together around really complex situations, especially like with organizational trauma,
Yeah.
which is what I was going into, and I didn't realize quite at the time that's exactly what I was dealing with. So they gave me the name for what I was working on. They gave me the frameworks. They gave me um, sort of the tools for what to apply when, for making change and at the right time points, how to think about aligning people around this, how to do listening tours,
Mm-hmm.
all of these skills that I mean, you don't learn that as a clinical psychologist
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Right.
So that was incredibly valuable. And those are the same exact things that I've, developed over time, my own flavor of it, and help other women
Mm-hmm.
and teams learn how to do to be as effective as possible, and to feel as capable, confident, competent as they can to be the leader they want to be, to lean into it.
Yeah, that's such a great journey. I love the way that you talk about how they gave you confidence, because even especially as a woman, I know women have different challenges than the rest of us. Confidence is one of those things, and just helping you believe in yourself, right? And then you also described the way in which they gave you a name, a framework, right? So it's not like you didn't know it, but just a framework that helps you recognize what you're doing and how to do it. and then teaching you some new skills, because as you said, they don't always teach you these things as a leader, right? As a leader, you're not always taught, hey, this is the organization that I'm going into, organizational trauma, what that means, how to deal with it. But they gave you the name and they showed you how to do these things. I think that's a really great example. And now you're doing that for other people as well. So talk to us a little bit about the training that you've had in organization development as a psychologist, and how that really allows you to help other people now.
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of training and not all formal. So for me, I sort of informally specialized in this by reading a lot, by developing myself and engaging in ways that I can develop myself as a leader, develop my team, develop,
Mm-hmm.
the sort of organizational strategies to implement. So I was literally trying it on myself and my,
Mm-hmm.
you know, team and group of people to see what worked in real life and
Mm-hmm.
practically. Um, and then I did take a business essentials course that's like a mini MBA from UNC, and took several other certificates to because I really didn't want to go back for an entire MBA after getting a PhD and a master's degree. Like I was done paying for for school at this point, but I knew I was missing. Um, the language of business. I
Mm-hmm.
understood, a lot about the administrative processes within large complex systems, but not necessarily always the language around, financial issues, economics, working in limited funding agencies, the, marketing aspects of, what businesses do. So all of that was part of me identifying the gaps and supplementing. The other thing that I did is, even though I started my company in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and it was doing well, I still felt like there were gaps in my training and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And there came an opportunity that I think it was like 2 or 3 years into my business that I could not pass up, with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and that was to work for their National Center for Organizational Development. I know you and I have that in
Yep.
common. You had that past experience too,
Yep.
and it was a very rare opportunity to surround myself with clinical psychologists who respecialized as organizational development psychologists
Mm-hmm.
for a large um, organization. And
Yeah.
I was like, am I willing to slow down the growth and opportunities in my business in order to access this learning opportunity? And I realized, yes, I think I will grow more as a person, and the business will do better over time if I slowed
Mm-hmm.
myself down enough to lean into this opportunity. 3 years in, I'm still with them. I'm
Yeah.
still learning. And it has absolutely helped me continue to hone this unique identity between being a clinical psychologist, a consulting psychologist in business, and an organizational psychologist, and like my flavor of it. That was critical, I think.
I love how you've integrated all these different experiences that you've had and are now putting it together to help all the women in the teams that you're working with. I know you've got a lot of other projects, and you're also an author as well. You've written books as well. I'm really interested. Can you tell us some examples of some of the work that you've done where you've gone in and helped a women leader or a team, and seen that actually come to fruition in terms of success for the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, there are so many examples of this, but what I've learned over time from all of the work that I've done with women in leadership is there is an important piece that is missing from traditional leadership development opportunities
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to women and anyone else who has a marginalized identity, um, because um, it's you're adjusting your the way that you see yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
moving, you're transitioning from seeing yourself in one way to being able to see yourself in a different way, but that is not necessarily always something that is visible in the representation and the leaders around you. So you have this
Mm-hmm.
assumption that you can only be a leader in one way. And you have to act a certain way, and you have to present yourself in a certain way and be a certain way. And so the goal here over time that I've learned from working with a lot of women in leadership is to challenge and tease apart who are they as
Mm-hmm.
people and their strengths, and what piece have they sort of um, taken in just from gendered messages from society that they need to just challenge and extract
Mm-hmm.
in order to continue on their path. And that is leadership identity development, not leadership development. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I've come to see. And so, that comes from like my early days of, developmental counseling is who am I as a
Yeah.
person? Who do I want to be? And where am I going? And sometimes shedding, you know, it's the what got you here won't get you there,
Mm-hmm.
idea that Marshall Goldsmith has put out, right?
Yeah.
Like how you got to this point is not how you'll get to this point
Mm-hmm.
or this point.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I remember going through that myself, having to sort of really question a lot about like, um, do I believe that I need to be aggressive and be a quick decider and take massive risks
Mm-hmm.
in order to be a great leader? Or am I okay with approaching this in a more calm, thoughtful, calculated risk kind of way
Mm-hmm.
and teaching others how to do that? And am I okay with being an empathetic leader or a humble leader? Instead of an aggressive leader or a dominant leader. You can be a leader in lots of different ways. And, I had to come to terms with that myself. And now what I do is help other people sort of evaluate that for themselves as well. Um, so, with that in mind, I've developed kind of a 5-stage developmental leadership identity development pathway, and
Mm-hmm.
we work through that. We work through like what is our relationship to uncertainty, and what does that mean for us, and what are the
Mm-hmm.
next steps to leaning into uncertainty. Developing identity, mapping out a strategy for ourselves and our organizations, navigating complexity, which is where the teams and systems level thinking comes in, and then making a greater impact, which for a lot of women and the new generations, we want to work for a place where we can make a big impact. And
Mm-hmm.
if we feel like we're undervalued and underutilized and can't do that, we're not going to be interested in leaning in like that. We're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be interested in, supporting a company like that. So, um, that's kind of where I am right now. And I'm sharing that more and more in things like an upcoming podcast, The Hard Skills, I'm calling, which is starting on Friday. If you'd like to sort of, I've already invited you to join. So you're going to come and join and share your perspective as well. The podcast is coming, and then a membership community for, centering women's leadership and supporting women on this journey. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about that too.
Yeah, I love all the work that you're doing, Mira. I mean, my wife is a physician leader, and so I have some. I've seen some of the challenges that she has, as a female leader in the medical community, and so I really am just so happy and grateful to you for all the work that you're doing and for the depth of experience that you've had. You're pulling from your experience as a female leader to be able to help other female leaders, and I think that's just really awesome and really fantastic. We didn't even get into your personal experience that you talked about coming over as a refugee, and I would love to hear more about that and hear more about how that integrates and is a part of who you are and how you do the work that you do. And so, Mira, we're definitely just going to have you come back. I think there's so much more to get into, so I think we're definitely going to have you come back. But in the meantime,
Just have to keep coming back and forth from your podcast to mine, back to yours.
we'll just keep going back, absolutely. We'll just keep going back and forth. But Mira, I know that you're doing great work, and there's going to be people out there who want to get in contact with you. So how do people get a hold of you? How do they follow you? How do people reach out to you?
Yeah. two of the best ways is on social media. I am, on many social media platforms, but where I live is LinkedIn. I'm most active there. And so you can find me there at Mira Brancu, Mira Brancu, or
Mhm.
on my website, you can check me out and our company Towerscope at www.gotowerscope.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And then the last thing, Mira, as we have you on here, I have all these great people on here. I just want to ask you for a little bit of free advice for the people out there. What advice would you give to all the people out there who are, struggling in this environment as business leaders, as managers? What tip would you leave for them?
Yeah, I think this is where I'm leaning today on the advice
Hmm.
giving tip is if one path closes, your that's not your path.
Hmm.
And to keep trying, to keep persisting in other ways, use other methods, use other avenues to keep going with the things that you're most passionate or interested about. Because um, you know, I've I've received so much rejection, and it just means nothing at this point. It's just that's not quite the right timing or the right way. But there is a way. You just have to find it if
Hmm.
you just keep like persisting in other ways. And sometimes when I'm in the midst of rejection, I don't really believe that. But when I get out of it, I look back and it's always true that all of those paths that were close to me just opened up a different door for me.
Yeah, I love that advice, Mira. It reminds me of someone once told me that when something ends or you reach a roadblock or something is closed off, appreciate that because it's telling you not that way, right? It's telling you not that way.
Mhm.
It's not saying no way, there is no way. It's just saying not that way. And so I really appreciate
Yeah,
your advice here for people out there. Mira, it's been fantastic to have you
absolutely.
on. This has been such a great conversation, and I'm so thrilled that you're on here. And again, really great work that you're doing with women and female leaders. Keep going on, keep persevering, and keep helping everybody out there. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I look forward to having you all back again because we're definitely going to have you back again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Awesome. And for everybody else, I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. That's it for now. Bye.